I heard an explosion after getting up. The shock threw me 20 to 30 feet higher. I tried to stand up while cleaning my face to assess where I stood in respect to the automobile in flames. I couldn't wipe blood from my eyes no matter how hard I tried. Angels were chanting my name from afar, and they were getting louder. Cal, Cal baby, come over here and come to us, I say. No thanks. I've been through enough tonight, and I don't need any more surprises. Hands pulled me. 5 party girls were holding me up, and I understood who they were. When I didn't arrive, they came to the base to rush me up so I wouldn't miss the going away celebration. I saw their headlights approaching just before the incident, and they were laughing hysterically as the car flipped over and caught flames in front of them. It was terrible when they discovered it was my car. I recall them saying, "You better not die on us," so I gave them a thumbs up to signal I wouldn't. I could do little else. They were trying to rush me back to the base hospital in the rear seat to meet my commitment. 3 girls sat in the rear seat, and 2 held me. After jumping into the front seat, they drove as quickly as they could, which was a lot. One of them said through tears as I lay on their laps, "Look, Cal saved Tigger." When she went for the plush animal, was terrified to discover my head gushing again. She rapidly replaced Tigger in protecting me. Another saw at my injured hand from the glass and tore up her skirt to bandage it. I liked that these females didn't mind my filth on them and in their car. The fast-moving car's back glass caught my attention, and I sat up straight. The flaming and smoking lump that was my stain faded amazed me. Down below, 3 girls were screaming and shouting at the driver to speed up. I thought, wow, that's me on their laps, and nobody's home. I'm looking out the window at what was left of my poor wrecked Mustang. The other me is just chilling out and not doing anything. I told the girls I was okay and they could stop sobbing and calm down. I touched the driver to catch her attention, and she turned toward me. She spoke to the girl holding my other head, not me. She claimed to be driving this 8-cylinder automobile at full speed. No discomfort or worry even though I was speeding with 5 girls on the highway. A great night's start. At the hospital, the 2 girls in front ran out like a relay race and through the doors. When they returned with 2 cordmen and a gurney, I was about to depart for the swinging doors. I stood aside to watch them place the other me on it, and as they dragged him away, I watched the other 3 girls gather together. Everyone headed to the ER. Since no one noticed me, I followed them to find out what was going on. Many nurses, cordmen, and a doctor were hurrying around, and some females were at the front desk telling the desk clerk about me, while others put their noses against the operating room glass. I walked down the corridor and watched folks on benches and chairs. They were waiting to be helped, but another me was ahead of the queue, so I excused myself and joined her. I entered directly and avoided the nurses tearing my clothing off and wiping me down. As the doctor cleaned up the large hole on my head, the corpseman next to me asked if he might sew up my hand. My doctor said it was fine because he didn't think I'd live. He suggested putting a plate in my head, but I had lost so much blood he didn't think I'd live long. The doctor removed my dog tags when the nurse inquired for the base chaplain. After seeing agnostic and ODG, he added, "This kid probably doesn't care, but you can call him if you want." I didn't like his rudeness. I thought about complaining when a corpseman practiced on my hand, but I floated toward the ceiling instead. I finally realized I could see myself on the table being furiously worked on, and a mostly transparent version of myself floating above it all. I saw dust and filth on the operating room fluorescent lights as I drifted higher. Thought, someone is also going to hear about this. Doctor said, "Tag him, that plate nurse won't be needed." "Corpsman, do you have that hand finished?" "Yes, sir," he said. The doctor answered, "Fine, just put a sheet over him for now, son." I knew what was happening, but I wasn't ready for what was about to happen to me. I tried to reach the wailing, hugging girls, but I was pushed backward and up. I felt surprise, excitement, and eagerness for what was to come, not dread or loss. No automobiles or people were in the hall and tunnel, but I saw a light at the end. It was dark, but not black. I thought the sun was shining at the other end of the path. I turned about and squinted to see into the blackness as I was drawn toward the light at the end of the tunnel. They looked like pious men worshipping to their gods. They wore their nicest robes, toes, headdresses, loincloths, etc. tunnel sides held most of them. However, one was seated in the tunnel with his hands in his lap and feet crossed. Long grayish hair and Asian appearance. After 2 trips of the country, I believed he must symbolize the last faith I wanted to adopt. I was raised Catholic, but I left when I was young and studied Mayan, Quran, Hopi, and all North and South American native religions. Each appeared to be present. I glided by the monk below me, who smiled as I passed. All the other pious men were saying prayers and lifting their arms to bless themselves. I didn't know if they prayed for me or the tunnel. No one was sitting or standing in the tube. They were floating. I wanted to stop and chat to some of them, maybe ask who they were and how long they had been there, but I was drawn to the light. I saw smoke that looked like fire. It came from the entire long tunnel. Since my feet never contacted the tunnel floor, I could see and smell but not feel. I felt like I was going straight down the middle as I approached the end. Things brightened as I neared the end of the tunnel. It was like seeing a giant canvas painted dazzling white. I waited for a painting on a blank canvas. My entire life from birth to now flashed before my eyes like a half-speed strobe light, frame after frame, with certain areas frozen for a second before going on. It felt like a test to see if I belonged here. It ended as abruptly as it began. I looked back at the canvas after the last scene of a rolling metal mass catching fire. As I stared into the great whiteness, I looked down at my body for guidance, but my body shape was gone. I wondered, this can't be. Am I now a part of this blank white canvas? If I am, where do these questions come from? If I was, I saw a bright pink ball approaching. It got bigger as it drew closer, and when it was about the size of a beach ball, and above and in front of me, it flashed brightly and became an incomprehensible creature of pure light that floated in front of me. Although it was taller than the tallest person I had ever seen and wider than 2 of me, its size and shape were nicely balanced, making it stunning. Her hair, face, and gown were golden and flowing like an electric or nuclear charge. The essence of energy. Everything behind it solidified as its shape did. I felt like the white canvas at the end of the tunnel was alive, and I was part of it. Front and behind, other figures appeared in me. Most didn't have wings. Some were fully formed, others not. Others resembled dazzling orbs of light and color that popped like bubbles in carbonated water. My patience ran out. I felt every emotion 10 times greater. I was going to speak or offer a question when the being spoke. Its symphony of voices was perfect and all-encompassing, neither male nor female, loud nor quiet, shallow nor deep. It replied, "Those are Michael and Gabriel. Michael has chosen you as his own, and Gabriel will show you the way." I peered behind them and saw another big figure. It was gorgeous but darker, like its robe. A light remarked, "That is the one who has been kicked out. Those of you to whom I've given a choice, you can choose any of these." I decided to pick Michael since he had already chosen me. He was robust like the others, but his eyes had a fire that captivated me. Gabriel's eyes were softer and more understanding, and I thought, oh, how beautiful these beings are. Then I glanced at the being in front of me and saw love, warmth, authority, and power in its eyes. He appeared to enjoy my pick, and he told I, "You will be my soldier, and for a while, you will go with Michael. Gabriel will sometimes come to you. I will send others to you, and when the gathering comes, your fruit won't fall far from the tree." 5 light balls appeared then. They appeared to be having fun, swirling about me and the entity. I saw that they were all the same size and shape, and had subtle hues like rose petals, except for one blue one. They came from the countryside. Before I could question, it responded, "They, like all of you here, are of me. But these will come to you, and you will care for them more." I felt the entity was telling me these were my children, but I was 21 and had no intentions to marry. I didn't know what this had to do with me or him until a rainbow-colored crystal platter appeared. It split into a million gorgeous bits instantly. The parts slowly came together to become the original serving platter again, and I realized what this being of light was trying to tell me. We are the platter. Everybody I saw here and back in the globe was one of those millions of pieces. My mind was still attempting to figure out the gathering. As I struggled to figure out what this meant, the being said, "Here, you will see the signs that bring about the gathering." Frames appeared like TV screens. As I viewed the screens, a picture formed in my head. I felt driven back by its force. Though fleeting, they felt like they were happening right in front of me. I couldn't look away and felt like I was joining each image. Uniformed guys killed each other. Insignias from the US were familiar to me. They also killed thousands of non-uniformed civilians. Similar to seeing toy figures run over other figures. Different countries, nationalities, faiths, weapons. In decades, hundreds of thousands died and died. I wanted to leave because I could feel their pain. I inquired why and how long this was happening. The entity said, "Man will eat man until man prays for man." Next, I saw floods at different times of year on different countries, and walked through them again, experiencing their force and smelling death. Hundreds died while acres of crops, livestock, and wild animals floated into the abyss. Then I watched volcanoes erupt worldwide one after another. Molten lava smothered towns, villages, and their residents and animals. I gazed about the wreckage and saw little remains. The screen last showed earthquakes destroying practically every continent. Most were in Asia and Europe, but one was significant in the US. Again, many died, structures were damaged, and land was flattened. I returned to the being, and he said, "Not only will you see more of what you have already seen, but there will come a time when it will all happen at the same time and in the same way." I didn't have time to ask because he added, "They will turn away from me and call themselves gods." Michael then took me into the universe. From Earth, I saw novas, suns, and planets. Not long ago, or so. We headed to the universe's center, where everything began. There were gazillions of planets orbiting gazillions of suns, and as we approached the center, we spotted more galaxies. Everything in the cosmos is like your broken dish. The largest chunk was in the middle, and the first bits broke farthest away. Nothing is more than a circle. Each level or dimension is a layer of the infinite original. I observed millions of orbs enter planets strategically. I saw that several of these planets had life on them, and that the orbs were joining with the organisms on them as Michael drew me closer. Though each planet had different life forms, they all had a head, body, and limbs, and the light beings gave them life. After leaving the center, Michael informed me Gabriel would have more to say, and that he was pleased with how often he had asked me to obey his will and how successfully I did it. He ended with, "You will never be made to forget again." On my way back to Earth, I observed comets and asteroids pass me or me pass them. Bright hues distinguished gaseous cloud forms. I imagined the shapes of these nascent galaxies resembling clouds on Earth. This one was a boat, a bird with wings, and a wind-blown scarf. I kept doing this until I saw Orion and knew I was near. Two fiery heavenly bodies moved parallel to its center. They went for Holmes' blue marble like twin arrows from an archer's bow. I saw millions of people crying because portions of New York City were devastated immediately. I believe my upbringing in this place may explain my peculiar feeling. Eureka had an 8.6 earthquake. A ham operator or radio broadcaster instructed thousands of people leaving disaster-prone locations or to go to avoid an explosion. A space station appeared to be plummeting. Multiple nations launched missiles into orbit simultaneously. I believe the light being showed me everything, but these were stronger and were not pre-screened. Gabriel joined me. I believed I was wobbly, but he explained my galaxy's galactic vista, which was growing. The sun was growing and shooting out large plumes of ectoplasm for the first time in the same direction as the planets. As these explosions affected the Earth, I couldn't look away. A mass bigger than any planet I knew passed me, and I watched the Earth trembling like a top nearing its spin limit. The spinning stopped and slowly resumed, but now it was skewed and seemed like a lens zooming in on me. The ash clouds covering the Earth thinned and fell apart like tack-welded metal. I saw the oceans rising, starting with the Pacific along the Ring of Fire, and then the others. As water traveled around land masses, they sank, exerting pressure on them. Pressures evened out with the axis of spin, changing the Earth's appearance. It was newer, cleaner, and prettier, with darker greens and lighter blues. Some of the new land masses resembled places. I had witnessed with Michael on other planets that people on this planet were happier and more joyful despite living like the native peoples of the past. Submerged cities housed those who had reached this new world. I witnessed tribes unite and small countries form, but what I didn't saw hurt my heart. People eventually achieved peace and happiness without warfare. Gabriel says me I must carry this message back from him to reassure people that the Earth will last forever, just like all the other planets I visited. I should tell everyone to gaze up so they'll know when the new world comes. Asking, what about the other people on Earth at the time of the change? Gabriel replied that everything will end, with some lifted higher and no longer enjoying the physical realm, and others remaining on Earth to refill and restore it. They will also be superior than the locals. I returned to the gold light, where 5 balls were still moving. I wanted to explore this realm with the other light creatures, but was told I couldn't. I was brought here to tell my descendants that their creator is impatiently awaiting them. If they transported their love to the physical world, the creature told me that if I had questions concerning my heart or head, he would answer them if I looked inside myself, because that's where he would live from now on. All I need to do is believe it, and I'll always know the truth. I was told there was still much to do and that God had blocked my path with rocks. Many people will be brought to me for help. I won't do more, but I can't let that go wrong to save a soul. I wondered how I would know, but before I could answer, I was being pulled through that dark tunnel like a dust bunny in a vacuum, with about as much control as a runaway train. My body hurt like hell when I woke up to a nurse washing blood off my right skull. I yelled at the nurse for her apparent indifference, and she looked astonished. "Oh my God, sailor, welcome home. We were sure you were dead." I asked where I was and how long I'd been there. She replied, "You've been in a coma for 7 days now. They thought you had died on the operating table and were about to take you to the morgue when the corpsman helping with the surgery saw you moving under the sheet and rushed you back to the operating room. The doctor checked you out and was surprised to see that your vital signs were getting back to normal. But what really shocked him was that the hard crust that had formed over the hole in your head seemed to have stopped most of the damage. He decided he didn't even have to put a steel plate in your head anymore because it had healed enough on its own while you were gone." I asked, "You mean the practicing corpsmen who were sewing my hand in the operating room saved my life?" "Yes," she replied, "but how did you know he was sewing your hand? You were asleep the whole time you were in the operating room and only just now woke up." If she had understood everything I knew, she would have been startled. I took the brush and towel from her and offered to finish. "Thanks," she said. She'd informed the physicians I was alive and alert. One Marine, a couple sailors, and their beds were across the dorm. The Marine was closest and seemed to know me. He grinned and said, "Hey, Mr. Chuck, my foreign name. You missed a great party last week," said. I said, "So I hear, but you should have been at the one I went to." He informed me the local newspaper had written about me and showed my automobile on the second page. He replied, "I bet you're glad they're going to sign your discharge papers and not your death certificate like they almost did." I answered, "Yeah, you know those Navy doctors, in and out. They'd sign anything to get their Liberty passes." My doctor arrived and began examining me. He was curious and startled by my rapid improvement. He touched my arms and legs after touching my head. He then had me count them by following his fingers. The doctor then asked me to stand. I leaped out of bed, shocking him. He inquired if I could raise my arms over my head, believing I couldn't. He asked if I could slowly reach my toes, which I could. He then sat me on the bed and talked. He called me a medical miracle. I was meant to die from blood loss and become a vegetable from my head injury. He also indicated my leg and arm injuries should have kept me in the hospital for 2 to 3 weeks. But there I was, without black and blue markers, and everything worked properly. It was a miracle, he admitted. He didn't see why I couldn't return to active duty. He signed my hospital release papers, and I returned to my squad the next day. It was good to be alive again. Yet I knew my location was better than any place on Earth. I remembered everything that happened in that other place, but never told anyone. I wasn't always looking, but I knew when individuals twitched their fingers near their brains when I mentioned I was dead.